Hi everybody, you're very welcome back to Law Hero. My name is Jen and I make videos about the law. So today we're going to do a requested video because a few people have picked up on what I've been saying around, finance being a barrier to being a lawyer, and requested I actually make a specific video on it. So interestingly enough, twice I've spoken on this issue for university students, and I never really thought of making a full video about it, but anyway, here it is. So, why does there have to be an alarm? So the first thing I want to discuss is, obviously, you're going to have more of an advantage if you come from a wealthy background. I don't come from a wealthy background. I come from, I would say, a very normal background, in that I wasn't given pocket money for nothing, as in, like, I was given pocket money up until 16 and then I was told you have to go and work. And actually, sorry, what am I saying? I worked for my dad for my pocket money. My dad's a butcher. So when it came to going to university, my parents paid my rent, but I got no pocket money. So it meant that I had to work every weekend. And at the time in UCC, the fees were €1,200 a year. So I think, like, back in 2009, 2013 when I studied, that was pretty manageable. My mother had savings put aside for my college, so that's what she used it for. The rent was pretty low. I think it was something like $350 a month. So it was manageable, but I had to make my own money. And I always felt quite resentful of the people who were wealthier and didn't have to work, because I felt as if they had the advantage of being able to study more. But that didn't necessarily materialize, because there's a phrase my mother always says, which is give a busy man a job. And what she means by that is that when you're time poor because you're out making money or whatever, what actually tends to happen is you become more efficient when you have to study. And that's actually exactly what happened to me. So I know a lot of people have that mindset, like, oh my God, I have to work, this is taking away from my study time. But I'm asking you to maybe switch up your mindset a little bit, because it's not necessarily the truth. And so I worked at the weekend, so I worked in petrol stations, I worked in customer care, and even in final year I started working during the week just because I needed the 20 hours. And minimum wage was €8.50. So just even to pay the electricity in the house, I had to work. I didn't have a choice. So, and obviously then in the summer, you would work for the 3 months and try and make, a little bit extra cash, so you'd have it as a buffer for your college year. And a point one of my friends made, and this was something I never really thought about, was that if you were lucky enough to be to live in Dublin and your parents didn't expect you to work during the summer, or you came from wealth where there was no pressure on you either, it was much easier for those people, or indeed from the surrounding areas of Dublin, to do an internship in Dublin unpaid in one of the law firms, or be put up by one of the law firms, because accommodation was always an issue in Dublin and being paid was always an issue in Dublin. It's changed a little bit now because of, online internships and virtual internships, and sometimes the law firms will throw some money towards your accommodation, but back then it definitely was a hindrance. And so much so, going to Dublin for an internship wasn't even on my radar. Like, there was never a point in, like, the summer of first year, summer of first year, I'm trying to think what I did. I think I worked, summer of first year I worked in a hotel, or in a restaurant. Summer of second year I went to Mallorca to be, to stand outside the you know, in Santa Ponza or these like holiday resorts where the girls stand outside the pub and they try and get you to come in. They're like, oh, we have a meter of vodka if you want that. And that's what I did from 8 p.m. at night to 4 a.m. in the morning for that summer. Babysitting, working in petrol stations, and then yeah, so those were my summer jobs. I never thought to do legal stuff until I got into third year when I was on Erasmus, because then people started talking about internships and stuff, and I was like, legal internship? Oh yeah, I'm studying law, maybe I should do that. And like, it's amazing now where first years write to me and they're like, oh, I'm thinking of doing an internship. I'm like, you're a child. Like, how are you thinking like this? When I was in first year, all I could think about was, where's the next drink? Like, honestly, where's the next party? So yeah, I think things have definitely changed. So yeah, in third year, I was like, okay, I'm on Erasmus, I'm out here in Germany, I'll try and get some work experience in. So I did quite a little bit of legal experience in Germany, all unpaid, and that was actually really good stepping stone. And then I was thinking to myself, okay, well, I really like competition law, so I'll go and ask the now CCPC to do a month, again unpaid, and I stayed with a friend. So that kind of got the ball rolling. Then when I got back to Cork, I did some unpaid work in a solicitor's office. All of this was unpaid. At the time it was totally legit. Now it's not. Like, it wasn't legit at the time, but it was accepted by people like me who were just desperate to get some legal experience. But nowadays you wouldn't do that to somebody. So sorry, just to get back to the point around financing law. So when I say financing law, financing the undergraduate degree is a hindrance, but it's not like, it's not prohibitive to a lot of people. The problem is, I find, when you get out of the undergraduate and you start to move on. So obviously you need at least 10 grand for a master's. One from, you know, one of the big universities, unless you go to places like the Netherlands or Germany, where they're much cheaper. But what you have to understand is universities make their money off postgraduate degrees, and that's why I call this the ugly side of financing law, because people don't realize that about LLMs. I think I've made countless videos where I've discussed that I don't find an LLM helpful to an aspiring solicitor. LLMs are great if you're going down the doctor's route, or you want to, you know, like you want to be a lecturer, for example. Okay, if you want to do IPIT and become a specialist, but it actually isn't necessary. It's an academic thing to do, and I think a lot of people just do the LLM because they feel like it'll give them a better chance in a law firm. And yeah, it can colour your application, but you are not going to be accepted or rejected on the basis of an LLM. Therefore, on that basis, if you don't have the money, like if you don't have handy 10 grand around to spend, don't spend it. Get your FE1s done and move on, because it really isn't worth it. So full disclosure, I got a 20k loan from AIB because my master's was 20k. I wanted to go to Harvard, which was 70k, and I actually applied and got the Fulbright scholarship. But that was only going to be, I think, $30,000. So basically they were like, you need $40,000 and your accommodation in America isn't going to be covered. So I made the decision, okay, that's too much. Like, I'm talking max 20k here just to pay the tuition fees, because I really wanted to study finance. And like, looking back, I did learn a lot in that master's, but I was so squeezed financially repaying the, like, I didn't repay the loan. So I mean, it took me 4 years to pay back that loan, and it was such a bad decision because the interest on the loan was so high, and yeah, it was just a mess. Financially, it was a mess for me, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. So, and then that being said, I had to pay my accommodation in Frankfurt, and I needed to have some money to spend on myself. So that was extremely tough year. And I remember I was telling somebody, I remember looking at my bank account and I had €4 for like 3 or 4 days, and I was literally living off crackers and tuna. It was so bad. And what made it even more painful for me was that I was in a class with really, really wealthy Asians, really wealthy like French and Belgian people. And I think I told the story of somebody had a 50 euro note fall out of their pocket. And I remember having that moment cross my mind where it was like, I could really do with 50 quid. There was that little thing. And I remember we used to have this public M&A class. So like, you know, like stock exchange, companies listed on the stock exchange, and like hostile takeovers and all of that stuff on a Wednesday evening. And it was with a lecturer who owned his own law firm, and he actually was giving a scholarship to cover the fees. So he was giving a scholarship to cover the fees of the LLM, and I had applied for it and not gotten it, and I was heartbroken because I kind of saw that as a silver bullet to me studying in Frankfurt. I was like, if this guy gives me the scholarship to cover the fees, I'll only have to cover the accommodation in Frankfurt, which was only like 200 quid a month, and then I'll work and get my pocket money, but I won't be under so much pressure. Whereas I didn't get the scholarship with him, so I was under immense pressure because of the repayments on the loan. But anyway, so this is ironic because his class was at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. I'll never forget it. And it was from 4 to 6, but I had to start work at 5 p.m. So I would teach swimming from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. and I would make on that evening 100 euro. So it was extremely important for me that I got that 100 euro on a Wednesday night, because that was that was how I would pay for my food. It sounds ridiculous now, but like, if I missed one of those hours, my swim school wouldn't give me the money for that hour. So like, I had to be there. So he started to notice that I was slipping out of the class at like whatever, 20 to 5. Like I was only staying for 40 minutes of the class. So he took me aside and he was like, I noticed you're slipping out of the class at 20 to 5 every Wednesday when I'm teaching. He's like, you're not gonna pass this class if you're not there for the 2 hours. And I was like, well, let me tell you, I applied for your Poxy scholarship, you didn't give it to me, and because of you I have to work in a dingy swimming pool in South Frankfurt and teach all of these people and do it for 100 euro for 5 hours, and you probably make 100 euro for 2 minutes of your time in this university. And he was kind of like gobsmacked, and he was like, oh my god, I didn't realize that you had to go and do that. But he didn't make like any offer to help me out financially, so I was like, yeah, so I'm just gonna keep leaving at 20 to 5 and I hope you're okay with it. And yeah, I was kind of happy I said it to him. I did feel really vulnerable and I did feel really weak, but I was like, no, like this man needs to know what I'm willing to do to be here, and I don't care. The strange thing was my grades really didn't suffer. Because I was, now, I mean, I remember getting run down a lot because it was really cold there in the winter time. Working, so I would teach English to business people and kids, and I would teach swimming to like rich people's kids, and I would do it for the swim school. The very strange thing about all of that was that it literally turned me into a savage. Again, I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but let's just see the silver lining here. So doing those things that are not law related, like I would argue that being an entrepreneur like that and like not having a choice, I had to make the money, and being so poor actually drove me to a place that I did not know I was capable of. I really didn't know I was capable of teaching swimming in another country, teaching English in another country. I actually did a really awful thing, and I don't mind saying it now because many years have passed, but I went to teach for an English language school, asked how much they were charging, realized I was being completely like taken advantage of by this language school. Like they were paying me nothing in an hour, and ended up taking 4 of their people from under their nose, and then they worked it out and they fired me, but I didn't care because I took 4 of their clients. You're not supposed to do that, but in my defense I was desperate. These kind of things, and I know at the time it didn't seem like it because I was pretty miserable, but it did teach me a lot about how to deal with people, how to be business savvy, how to prepare, you know, like I had to prepare for all of these lessons. I had to learn how to think on my feet, and all in a different language. It really made me much stronger and resilient. So it taught me a lot of things that I wouldn't have learned during the masters, and my grades didn't suffer. Like for my master thesis, I got a 3.9 GPA, which is like an A minus. So I cannot say that working disadvantaged my grades, but financially, yeah, I wasn't in a great place, I'll admit. So my advice for you guys, moving on then to like the FE1s. So obviously the FE1s, they are costly, and I always say that I was trying to win the prizes to pay back my mother because she was the one that lent me the money to do the FE1s. And that's the truth. I didn't have the money to do the FE1s. I did it in 4 and 4, and part of that was a financially driven reason. I mean, you're talking about €1,000, and then if you're factoring in rechecks and stuff, yeah, I mean, it's €1,000. That wouldn't be a lot to some people, but for people just starting off, it is a lot. So that's another, you know, grand you have to factor in. And then obviously you have to pay for the materials for the FE1 and all of that. That all adds up. But you can watch my videos for free on YouTube. So okay, you've got the FE1s now. What is the next step? So most people, while they do the FE1s, they are working. I mean, there's very few people who are at the age of 23 or 24, or if you're coming out as a mature student or a parent, have the luxury of living at home rent-free and doing the FE1s. I mean, those are the truly lucky people, I think. I wasn't one of them, but look, it is what it is. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the FE1 prizes. That's all I'm going to say. But let's say you've done the FE1s, you've got the training contract. The next big ugly issue around law, and this is something I didn't appreciate until I went to Blackhall, and to be honest, I was quite ignorant, because basically when I got into Cox's, I was like, okay, thank God I can relax now. You know, I'm going to get the FE1 money back. They're going to reimburse me. I'm going to have a good wage, you know, for starting off. And they're going to pay my Blackhall fees. And then you get into PPC 1 and you're in a tutorial group with 19 other people, and you're sitting beside somebody who didn't get their FE1s reimbursed, who's looking at you like, oh, you're some big firm, big shot who'd never understand my financial worries. They're commuting from somewhere like Portlaoise every day because they can't afford to live in Dublin. They're still working for the law firm they're training with because the law firm they're training with won't give them the holidays to do the PPC 1. And the law firm they're training with isn't paying their full fees in Blackhall. So what you have to understand is not every law firm covers the full cost of the PPC 1. They should, but some of them don't. And then some of them, in a way to try and, you know, get you to pay back what you owe them, essentially, is they make you work during PPC 1, which to me was absolutely ludicrous, because when you're on the PPC 1, like, basically you're doing a few classes a week, but it's a real downtime for people, you know, because you know you're going to be back in the office in March and it's going to be all hands on deck for the whole summer. So it's only when you start talking to people, and like, they're training in firms outside of Dublin. Usually in Dublin, I'm not going to say all, but there's some law firms in Dublin that are small that would also be of that mindset, simply because they don't have the cash. And this is the other thing as well that people don't realize, is that so you have your training solicitor. If you're not in the big law firms, those law firms may not be able to cover the cost of your training, but they just need somebody to carry on the business. So like, you're extremely important to them as an individual, but cash flow wise, you're going to be in a quandary. And how much you're paid is going to be lower as well. And like, this is why people want to go to the big firms. It's not just because of the reputation and the training, it's because financially you will be looked after. And like, even though you're worked really hard in the big law firms, you cannot say that financially they don't look after you. And that actually has a knock-on effect, because Obviously, when you train with a big law firm and you want to go in-house, for example, and I'm not saying you can't go in-house if you've trained with a small law firm, I'm just saying because you have trained in a big law firm and all of the other, we'll say, like corporates who are looking to hire people or other law firms, they know the brand, they're willing to pay you more because you trained in that small law firm. It's not necessarily because of competency all the time, it's because they trust where you've trained and that has made you more valuable in the workplace. So that's one of the other ugly truths about financing being a solicitor, is that you don't realize that your PPC 1, I think I was told that the total cost of training someone over the 3 years is like 80 to 100,000, and that's why law firms really want the PPC 1 and the PPC 2 rolled into one, like in the UK, because in the UK they go to the LPC for like 6 months, whereas here we have it like 9 months roughly, and it's split out between PPC 1 and PPC 2. There's a lot of downtime, and in that time the trainee's not working for the law firm. If it's a big law firm, some of the trainees in smaller law firms will work for their law firm, which I find totally terrible, but anyway, they're trying to get their money's worth out of the trainee. So these are all things you have to bear in mind. I'm not going to rabbit on anymore. It's a really sensitive topic, but I think the more people talk about money and the more we can just be honest about where our money came from, where our money's going. It's a taboo because previously you would just pay for your law degree and off you go. You would take all the money from your clients, you would use it to buy houses, and you were literally like a bank manager. That's the way that like old school lawyers would operate. Nowadays it's not like that. The profession has changed, the face of the profession has changed, money has changed, things have become cheaper, but in other ways they've also become more expensive, and that has become prohibitive for others. So yeah, that's my video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.